Hello, welcome to Lost in Movies. I'm Alec Kerr, the film critic for the Conway Daily Sun, and this week I'm joined by two people.
I'm Chrissy.
And I'm LJ.
And you're a very brave man.
I agree.
I don't know, what is scarier, you two or it, which we will be talking about?
It's kind of a
So,
tie.
this is the second adaptation of the Stephen King book. There was a 1990 miniseries starring Tim Curry, and now this is 27 years later, fittingly enough, because the It creature comes every 27 years. So, check out the trailer.
There you go. She's all ready, Captain.
Thanks, Billy. Derry's not like any town I've ever been in before. People die or disappear 6 times the national average. And that's just grown-ups. Kids are worse. Way, way worse. We all float down here.
I saw something. There was this.
Clown. Yeah, I saw him too.
Look. It's all connected by the sewers. That's where it lives. What happened?
Bill, if you'll come with me, you'll float too. You'll float too. You'll float too. You'll float too. You'll float too.
So, it, because of the miniseries, has become very much a part of the pop culture, largely because of Tim Curry's performance. So, there was a lot of concern about whether Bill Skarsgård would be able to live up
Which
to
is
Tim
a
Curry.
hot young actor.
Yes. He is one of the 8 Skarsgård kids, because he's Stellan Skarsgård's son. 4 of them are already in acting.
Right.
So, he's not even the youngest that's already acting.
Right.
So, but
This
he
was his first major role.
first major role. But
to take-
he is very different Pennywise. But he definitely holds his own.
Yes, he does. And what I really appreciated was that he did not try to carbon copy
No.
Tim Curry.
He didn't replicate much of Tim
No.
Curry's
No.
performance,
No.
which was nice to see because there was that fear.
Right. The only moment you could say that he kind of emulates Tim Curry is the drain.
Yes.
Yeah, the storm drain.
And I think
because he had to, kind
that
of.
was a wise choice because the scene can't go too far.
Right.
Like that whole
It's inside a drain.
Right.
he's inside a train. There's no physically you can't do
Right.
anything different with it. And it was kind of just this is the last moment. This is not the movie you're expecting to see.
Right.
And that was kind of cool.
And they even take it, like, 'cause you're like, okay, I'm familiar with this. And then when little Georgie finally gets
yeah.
taken, it's like, oh, this is
a completely different
because
movie.
it doesn't shy away
No.
from and
They did
but
it-
that's really the only time that there's a little hint of whimsy in Pennywise.
Yeah.
After that,
It's the
there's-
last time we see the joyful Pennywise.
Right.
But they did a great job of changing up the lighting in the storm drain.
Yeah.
When Tim Curry played it, he was very bright, and you could see all of his reactions for the first half of the storm drain scene in
Yeah.
this movie. You didn't know anything but his smile.
Right.
Yeah.
And he's got
Which
these
is creepy.
creepy yellow glowing eyes.
Yeah. It's like the Cheshire Cat moment.
Yeah, I just
But-
wrote my review and I said he has this
Did
Cheshire
you? That's-
smile.
See, and it's creepy as hell.
It is.
Heck,
And
it's
I
good.
think
It's
we can get
creepy.
away with
we
that.
can do that.
Yeah.
It's creepy.
Yeah.
It's
It's
creepy.
even like he's done it without the makeup on, and even that
It's
is
creepy.
because so much of it really is just
Yeah.
his own face.
He has an amazing expressive face, and it's not lost in the makeup job,
No.
which is great.
Yeah.
Which is
and
really cool.
he actually
long
had
makeup
his
break.
eyes are actually do like where his eyes drift. His eyes actually do that in real life. So there's no CG. So when his eyes are like going in different directions, that's him actually doing that himself.
See, and actually, overall, I mean, this was a fairly big budget film,
Yeah.
and the opportunities to do a lot of CG, I don't know how much of it was CG, but the effects
Not a
were
lot.
really well done.
And I've heard some people complaining, oh, there's too much CG, and he's not scary because you can know when he's animated.
No.
But a lot of it isn't CG. A lot of
Right.
it's just his reactions.
Right.
And
And
he
when-
actually has control of his eyes, and he lets himself do that.
Right.
Yeah,
Just
exactly.
for the movie.
I mean, when his mouth enlarges and you see all of
Yeah.
his, I mean, that's CG. And when he kind of like runs at the screen, that's CG. But it's
But
fine.
the overall imagery
Yeah.
was just really, I mean, great effects, but it was real life, and it was creepy.
Yeah. And the thing is, and it's smart, and the miniseries did the same thing. It doesn't overuse Pennywise.
No.
When he's there, you feel his presence, and he's creepy, but it's not like Pennywise popping up all the time.
Right.
Like, he's probably only got like, what, maybe 20, 30 minutes of screen time in a 2-hour and 15-minute movie?
Yeah.
Yes, but he'll live in my nightmares
Oh, yeah.
forever.
But the interesting thing is, he's not a main focus in the book either.
Yeah.
No, because it's one more image of this children's fear.
Right.
And that's why, I mean, story-wise, what I really love, one of the things I did love, and was actually talking off camera about, they really focused on the first half of the book.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't, because with the miniseries there were allusions and
Right. 'cause
playbacks.
there was,
This
it was
was-
structured as flashbacks.
Exactly.
Too, and this just zooms
This
in.
movie could stand on its own
Yep.
if we never saw the next installment, and it would still be a really great story as is.
Yeah.
And that's what I really appreciated about it. Because one of the things that's going to happen is people are going to see this, and a whole new generation of people who've kind of not been into Stephen King are going to start reading this book.
Yeah, and I'm sure there, as hard as this might seem to believe, I'm sure there are people that went into this movie not knowing anything about it, and when it came up, chapter 1, they were like, "What? There's more?"
Exactly. And for instance, now I got the opportunity to go with a friend of mine and my daughter. Now my daughter has never read the book.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, she admits it's hard for her to get into a lot of Stephen King novels because they're so descriptive, and she's
Yeah.
always waiting for the story to start. And I'm like, this is why eventually you will love Stephen King, just keep reading.
Yeah.
And my friend David saw it, loved it. So when he found out where we were going, he kind of literally invited himself along. We're like, come on, that would be great.
Yeah, but that
But-
is this thing with Stephen
Yeah.
King, is that his writing is so detail-oriented.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I've been slowly reading The Dead Zone for months, and the first 100 pages is the character Johnny Smith in a coma.
Right.
Yeah.
For 100 pages.
Yeah.
It doesn't even get to him having, the ability to see people's past or future until like 150 pages in.
Right. And well,
Yeah.
that's one of the reasons why a lot of Stephen King movies in the past have kind of been not a flop, but like not like a huge thing, is
Yeah.
because the way he writes is so descriptive. The only way to do it is to cut it all down.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I haven't read it, but I was reading about it, and
That's terrible.
I
That's
know,
awful.
I know,
This
I
is
know.
where-
Must
this
have
is
read
why
it.
you're in trouble. Oh my
well,
God.
that's why I have people who have read the book. But the book sounds absolutely bonkers in a lot of respects, and there are some ideas that are in there that you have to remove from the movie, because, not to get into it, but what it actually is so complicated and so strange,
Right.
and would take so much time to explain that you can't put it into a movie.
No,
No,
there would be
no.
a movie on its own just of his origins.
Yeah.
and-
Exactly.
And don't suggest that, because then after these two movies, it could be
We could
Pennywise Origins.
right? It could be like Jaws.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be bad to hear about the turtle.
No.
Yeah, and there is an allusion
Turtle
to
can't
there.
help us.
There is an allusion to the turtle. So,
There is.
but
It
yeah,
was
there's
a
a
nice
whole
Easter egg
there's a
for
whole
us
thing
readers.
about a turtle that tells them how to defeat Pennywise. Like, it would be so hard to explain this in a movie. And so, thankfully, and I
the
think
book
it's
is like 12 inches thick. I
yeah,
get it.
It is 1,000+
Is
pages.
it? I read it on a Kindle. I don't know.
So, I mean, that's part of the reason it is so hard to adapt Stephen King, because it's like, what do you put in? What do you cut?
Right,
How do you
right.
distill this and still get the essence of the story?
Right.
Yeah. And I thought it was really great when they pulled the adults out of the first chapter, because it gives you a chance to learn all of the kids' backstories before we see their adult counterparts.
Right.
Because in a lot of, I mean, with the TV miniseries, whatever, how long was that?
It was just 2 parts.
It was 2 parts.
two
Yeah.
Okay. It was
So I
2
think it's
parts.
like a 3.5 hour
Yeah.
movie, something like that.
That's what I did really like about this. It focuses on each kid.
Yeah.
And we don't even get each kid's full story.
No, it's only a partial story, but some of the characters we saw so far in depth that we felt their pain when they were facing it
Right.
with their evil.
Like, Bill
Reflection.
and Beverly are very clearly defined.
Yeah.
Mike is as well, because he's dealing with the loss of his parents. Eddie, who is a hypochondriac, he's pretty well defined as well. Richie is the trash talker. I will say they're probably, and this is the problem when you're transitioning a book to a movie.
Right.
Sometimes there are just too many characters, and I feel like I forget which character it is. One
Tell
kid,
you.
Give us a hint. We'll make it happen.
the Jewish kid,
Stan.
Stan. He doesn't really add anything to the movie, unfortunately. I
No.
mean, he has a scary. There's like, his fear is scary.
Yeah.
But you don't really know much about him.
He's not a central character in the book either,
Right.
though.
Yeah, and
No.
and
He's
people
just
who know
a
he doesn't,
loser club.
even as an adult, he doesn't linger
No.
very long.
But what I think I liked about seeing his fear is it was kind of a reminder that this isn't a scary movie about a clown.
Right.
His fear was very different, and he's like, I didn't really see this clown. And
Right.
what he saw was creepy.
Right.
Very creepy.
And
It was also nice to see Eddie's fears come to life.
yes. Yeah, and that comes directly from the book, because he is a hypochondriac. His fear is a leper,
Yep.
and it's a very creepy, gross leper.
It really was.
I know. I'm like, ew.
And they
Yeah, I have any
actually,
fear.
I know,
the
right?
director and the writers actively made a choice to move away from some of the fears from the book, so that
Right.
they would be able to surprise fans of the book.
Right.
Because in the book, the fears were based on basically the universal monsters.
Mm-hmm.
So you had Wolfman, you had the Mummy, you had Frankenstein's monster, Dracula. All those were
Right.
but here they kind of, I don't want to spoil what they are, but they move away from
They
some
do.
of those.
They do. And I mean, in a sense, again, Beverly is dealing with a very real life fear.
Yeah.
And it's tragic. It was definitely given a very minimalist view in the TV version
Right.
because there were restrictions on what they
Yeah,
could
it
do
was
on
a
TV at the time.
1990 TV,
Yeah.
network TV, not even cable.
Exactly.
So-
So that's what was nice about seeing more of her story.
Yeah.
Is because it wasn't just random fears; these were life fears.
Right.
And it is very much a coming of age story.
It is. And as good as the stuff with Pennywise is, because he is scary, it really is the stuff which is the real world fears.
Right.
The fact that Beverly is dealing with an abusive father, the fact that Bill is dealing with the fact that his brother Georgie is dead or missing, he doesn't know, and he's traumatized by that, and he doesn't want to believe that he's dead.
And in the movie, his parents have already started moving past that
Right.
because they have to.
And they don't want to
And
even
he
let
does
him deal
not
with it.
have that support
Right.
in this fear and this worry.
And really, it's only his friends, the Losers Club, that are like, "Oh, I'm sorry, Bill. I know you're going through this."
They're very protective of him,
Yeah.
even when they're speaking to him, and they change their verbiage when they're talking to him. They're always trying to protect him from.
And there are a
what they
couple
know is
times
his
where they
biggest
slip
fear.
up and they feel really bad
Yeah,
about
and
it.
you can just see that, they feel like they've put a nick in his armor, and
Yeah.
that's not good.
And there's a moment where they kind of come apart, and one of them says, he's gone, he's dead, just deal with it. And like, it's devastating.
Yeah. I mean, there were parts that were so very, very sad.
Yeah.
But life is not always a happy merry-go-round.
And that's the thing about it, Pennywise, is he takes these real world fears and exaggerates them and makes them 100 times worse.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so it becomes the real central theme of this is facing your fears
Exactly.
and trying to grow up. And as we see, even though they do face their fears, as we will see in the second part, is they still are haunted by those fears, and they did follow them into adulthood. And again, Pennywise explodes that.
Yes, he does.
It's his job.
It
Yeah.
is. It's his job.
So they gotta kill him once and for all.
I do. What I love is at the end of the movie. This is not giving what happens. The imagery is amazing. It is much more detailed than the TV version was, because it's a whole other time. I mean, that movie was how many years ago?
27
Yes.
years.
So some of the key phrases that
Well, they-
incite thought, like we all float down here.
Right.
To be able to visually see something
But
that disturbing.
Right, that's the thing. Like,
was
you hear,
wonderful.
they all float. They're like, oh, are they floating in water?
Right.
Oh, no, they're not floating in water.
Like, oh my God, they're floating. But
That
and
was
like
something they couldn't do.
Right, and there's a
Yeah,
very, very simple but very disturbing image of one, I don't want to say who, one of the kids floating.
yes.
And it's very disturbing, and it's very simply done. She's just kind of, I said she. But yeah.
No, but for instance, this is the thing, is they really touch on the fact that every 27 years,
Yeah,
many children disappear.
right,
But they haven't gone away. They're all still floating.
right.
And that's where it's just the time frame and some of the stuff, you can really tell that it's been hundreds of years this has been
Right.
happening.
Oh, and going back to real world horror, there is a bully
Yes.
named Henry who is
Mm-hmm.
terrible. And he's even worse in the book.
Yes.
He is.
Him and his gang kill animals, and there's an implication. There's that is done, but they don't show it. But they do imply that, because they point a gun at a cat.
Right.
But they just yeah.
Well, and one of the things that got me was, I honestly, not to get into like the deep dark Chrissy land, but
Too late.
I know, right? I live it every day, and you all have to come along. So, I went to school with bullies, like this gang of friends that they have, and there was always that one where no matter how bad they all were, that one was going so much further that even the other bad kids were like, that's too much.
Right.
You can't do
He's
that.
a sociopath.
It's like what happened to this kid to make him this way, and then you get a little glimpse of why he's the way he is.
Which is nice, even though he is a bully and he does become completely unhinged and he is manipulated by Pennywise,
Right.
to be pushed further than he's ever gone.
Right.
But you do have
He
at
had
least
the capacity before that.
Yeah,
Right.
he had the capacity, but you do at least get one moment where you sort of, maybe not sympathize, but you empathize a little bit. You're like,
Yeah.
okay, I understand why you're psychotic.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they gave
but
us
you're
a peek into his world, which the miniseries never did.
Right.
Yeah.
There was no sympathy or understanding of things, in the other version. Which,
And so when you see him become manipulated by Pennywise, you're like, oh, well, that's too bad.
yeah.
I mean,
I
he
still
becomes
wanted
awful.
to die horribly
Yeah,
because
but it's
he's
like-
evil, but
but-
that was bad.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's
No,
not. It's nice though.
No,
It's
but
nice that
that's why
there's
one
levels
of the
there.
reasons, all right, so just a little backstory.
Yeah.
LJ, I've known for years now, has gone to at least one good scary movie with me, and I'm a screamer,
Yeah.
and I get mad at
really
myself
sad.
because I know that the scary stuff is coming.
She like
imagery.
jumps, screams, and then yells at herself. It's
Yes.
great.
So I'm very entertaining to go to movies like this with. But I do love to be scared, and Stephen King has always been that outlet for me.
Yeah.
The imagery here, it's funny because there are a lot of jumper moments.
Yeah.
And even the moments where here comes the scary the music, and things like that. They're just really well done.
Yeah.
There's one moment that gets me, and yes, I dreamed about it after, where Pennywise is coming out of something contained.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they go check out the kids. We're even in the aisle going, "Don't go into the creepy house."
Yeah.
Don't go in. They
But it
banded
was
together and they
so
went into
nice
the creepy
to
house.
have Nebolt Street.
I know.
It
I know.
was.
Yeah.
I
Okay,
know.
continue.
But they went in to the creepy house.
Yeah.
like
No,
every
we were all
horror
telling
movie.
them not to,
Yeah.
and they did it anyway. So he's in this refrigerator, and just the image of him coming out of this refrigerator.
Yeah.
It's creepy.
There is a great moment in the house where there are 3 doors, and it's
Yes.
not scary, scary, very scary.
Scary.
And they go into the not scary. That wasn't scary. It was so
It
good.
It
was still
was
scary.
a lie. They don't listen.
No.
They just don't listen.
It's like, maybe this is reverse psychology. Maybe you should have gone for the very
The
scary
very
door.
scary
Yeah.
door. But no, and that's the images with the kids. There was no holes barred
Right.
on that
There's
one.
a sequence in the library, and there's some very creepy imagery in there. Don't want to spoil it, but it's very creepy, and
Yeah.
you
Yes.
and you don't expect it.
Yeah.
So, and it's not even really jump scare creepy. You just like something happens. Something walks by, and you're like, I just saw that.
That
Yes,
was real
very,
happening.
very, very wrong.
Yeah.
And it was right there in front of me. Oh
It's
no!
like, oh look, there are Easter eggs. Why are Easter eggs all of a sudden scary?
Easter
So-
eggs are not supposed to be evil.
On,
No.
on the reverse of Chrissy, she jump scares. I laugh maniacally.
Yes.
The very first horror that I had in my life experience, I was in a haunted house when I was 6 months old.
Love it.
I was an actor in my father's haunted house. So, like, I love evil, and
Yeah.
I maniacally laugh when things are scary for other people.
Yeah.
So I was terrible to go with.
You're like the worst person to go to it because they just laugh at your pain.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it's good.
Yeah, and here's the thing though, like the movie
should go see this one
definitely
again.
Okay.
is scary, but it also is a really good drama, and it also is funny. Like
It
it is,
has these really
had some really
hilarious
great
moments.
and the kids are really good together, and they are funny together.
Yeah.
Particularly Richie, who's played by Finn Wolfhard from Stranger Things, which
Mm-hmm.
it is great
of
because Richie's fear in the book was werewolves, so it's really funny
They do.
that he's played by Finn Wolfhard.
Yeah. Little homage to everybody.
Yeah.
It's good. But
But he's really funny because
yeah.
he is the trash talker who is constantly saying the most inappropriate things.
And he had a lot to live up to because the guy who played it in the miniseries
Seth Green.
was Seth Green, and he
Yeah.
was really funny.
he was great.
And he has probably the single biggest laugh in the movie, and it's during the final confrontation with Pennywise. I don't want to spoil it,
Nope.
but he's monologuing, and then he finally
Yep.
what he
Yep.
ends his monologue with is just perfect.
Perfect.
Yeah, it was.
Absolutely perfect. But again, I mean, in the last year, we've had a lot of really great youth movies
Mm-hmm.
based on all those oddball kids who didn't feel strong enough banding together
Yeah.
and conquering some great evil or trauma. It really brings me back to the days of the movies that I used to love, like The Goonies.
Yeah.
You know, The Princess Bride, where you got all your oddball friends together and you save the day.
Yeah. And like Stranger Things, this is set in the 80s. The
Mm-hmm.
original was set in the 50s, which it does make sense because the original book was written in 1986, and so 27 years earlier was the 50s. And
Yeah.
so to make it now, because when it does jump ahead 27 years forward, they did want it to still be in a contemporary time period.
Exactly.
So they had to move it back to the 80s, which is fine because you do get to play around with the 80s a little bit, and it doesn't overdo it or push it too hard.
The costuming and the settings are really well done,
Yeah,
but they're understated.
yeah, and there are great things done with a movie theater marquee where you get to see like Nightmare on Elm
Yeah.
Street 5, which was the movie that came out that summer,
Exactly.
and it is about a dream monster,
Yeah.
so it really...
Yeah.
And not only that, the T-shirts were all updated for the 80s, and
Right.
there were little Easter eggs on all the T-shirts, like a closed store from Bangor, Maine.
Yep.
And I think the car from Christine was
Yep.
on one
I
of the
heard
shirts.
about that, yeah.
It was kind of neat to see.
Now, here's something, though. Now, I was really involved in the movie. I did have to get up and leave the room once, which
Not
was a
okay.
shame. I know.
Not
I'm
okay.
creating like the worst thing ever. I'm leaving for 5 minutes. But anyway, did Stephen King appear in this film anywhere?
I don't believe so.
I didn't see
I
it.
don't think that was a big thing he did in the 80s and
Right.
90s. I think he stopped doing that probably about a decade ago.
And I almost expected him to do it again because it was kind of set in the late 80s.
But on the reverse, the original Pennywise did make an appearance.
Yes. There's a
Yes.
scene where there's a room full of clowns, and if you look, there's a still frame of it, I think, online. If you look right to the left, you can see the old Pennywise design, and it's
right
pretty cool.
there. Yeah, I'm not ever walking into a room of mannequins, like ever, because
I'm totally going to
And
find one and
the
bring her
sound-
to
soundtrack
right?
has a few choice 80s songs. There's
Yeah.
a really good moment or sequence using a Cure song
Yes.
where they're trying to clean up a bathroom. Don't want to say why they have to clean up
Right.
the bathroom, but the use of the song is really well chosen. There's a fight where they are throwing rocks at the bullies.
Yes.
And there's a nice
Well-
speed metal song over the track, over the
Exactly.
scene, and it's great.
And that's exactly, like, there's a lot of movies kind of setting that time in that late
Yeah.
80s when there was some phenomenal music
Yeah.
that was overlooked.
Right.
And that was the stuff I was listening to. And I'm so excited.
Yeah, and they only chose like 2 or 3 80s songs, and when they did use them, they didn't go for like the obvious Cure song.
Right.
They chose a like more obscure one, and it was perfectly chosen for the scene. And so that was really good. And yeah, and there is a running gag with New Kids on the Block.
Yes.
That is
Yeah.
pretty funny.
It's kind of
Was.
awesome.
So that was fun. I watch Doug Walker's Nostalgia Critic and his brother. They do a thing called Sibling Rivalry, and they usually just like to crap on movies. And so they were like, oh, this isn't any good. The tone is a train wreck of tone. Like, this movie doesn't have any
Where do
idea.
we find them? We need to
We
chat.
don't. This movie doesn't have any idea what it wants to be. And I'm like, what are you talking about? This movie clearly knows what it is.
Exactly.
And okay, so yes, sometimes it's funny, sometimes it's dramatic, sometimes it's scary, but
So
that's
is the
life.
book.
so,
And
yeah,
that's the
life.
book.
And that is
Exactly.
life, because sometimes life is funny, sometimes it's tragic, and
Right.
this movie is messy, just like life.
Very messy. But there are 3 things I learned.
Yeah.
3 things very important.
We got to wrap
I'm
it up.
ready.
Don't let your kids play in the rain.
Nope.
Don't trust a clown.
No.
And never, ever, ever.
Take a boat out of a storm drain.
Exactly. And avoid red balloons.
Yeah.
Which is bad. No more red balloons. Any other color, no red balloons.
Okay. So yeah, this is already done. It always happens so quickly. I think we're not going to. We're probably going to run this for a couple episodes
Okay.
because this is a big movie.
Are you sure? Because we could talk like
yeah.
another half
we
hour.
could.
But the next big movie we're going to do is the next Kingsman movie. So come back and get lost in movies again.